Well, Anderson, the Marines who are there are stationed as part of the diplomatic mission to secure the embassy, and it's actually one of the largest contingents of Marines protecting a U.S. embassy in the world. But these protesters, they were predominantly Islamist people who are angry about a film that came out which they say depicts Muhammad in a bad light, which they say insults the Prophet. They say that it calls him a womanizer, it calls him a homosexual, it calls him someone who molests children, basically things that Muslims would find offensive. So there was roughly 1,000 people out there going, and we saw a handful of people actually storm the embassy perimeter. They tore down the American flag. Security forces were off on the side. They eventually did show up to separate the protesters from the embassy, but it was a bit late later after the protesters were able to get in there. That's a question a lot of people are asking, is why the security forces didn't come soon enough, and Egyptian officials are also right now trying to figure out why they didn't have the response that they said they would have.
I want to go to Benghazi in Libya to Jumana, who is there. You're in Tripoli. You've been talking to a source in Benghazi where this person working at the consulate was just confirmed killed. What's the latest that you're hearing on the situation there?
Well, Anderson, according to the eyewitness, up until about an hour ago, he described the situation there as a front line. Libyan security forces were engaged in heavy clashes with members of an armed group that is Ansar al-Shari'ah, that is a radical militant group that is based in eastern Libya. He also reported rocket-propelled grenades hitting the consulate building. Libyan army troops were deployed, roads to the consulate were blocked off by military vehicles. There are conflicting reports on what the situation is there right now. A Libyan government official is telling us that the building has been secured by the Libyan military, but according to this eyewitness, members of the group had stormed the consulate building and taken over the building and were celebrating and looting the consulate. There have been condemnations issued, but at the same time, Anderson, there are also calls on social media sites for more protests in Benghazi and here in the capital, Tripoli.
Fran, you were just there in Libya last week and obviously concerned about the deteriorating security situation. Add this to the backdrop of what's going on in Egypt. How big a deal is this, I mean, in this kind of a situation?
Oh, Anderson, we should be very clear. One such breach of an embassy or consulate's walls or security on any given day would be tremendous news. It's very rare. Americans remember the takeover of the consulate in Tehran in 1979. This is a huge event if one of these happened. The fact that two of them happened on the same day, that is the 9/11 anniversary, where Americans are remembering those that we lost. You have to ask yourself, what are American officials trying to understand about this, and whether or not that these are related. You know, this notion that it's about a movie, Anderson, there have been calls for the protest in Cairo. This has been, the Egyptian officials understood there was a protest planned. How did this day get picked, and how did it wind up in two places? You know, and to have lost an American, I think we shouldn't underestimate the significance of this.